Hello, my dearest confidants. I know I've been gone for a little while. I've really been disassociating. Lots of doom scrolling and whatnot. Um, just kind of ever since the Charlie Kirk thing, I've had a hard time because it really triggered me with all of the religious stuff that's come about. And the universe is saying it's time for me to get back on my game, back on track. Yeah, but I want to share with you a dream that I had last night. It took me back to when I did my medicinal shroom journey, which, it made me kind of in fear. I was a little anxious when I woke up because I started thinking about just in general that feeling that I had back then that none of this is real. And if none of this is real, then that means I'm not real. And that is kind of scary. If you think about it, like, I don't actually exist. And that's very disconcerting. But back to the dream, because in reality, if I don't exist, then there's nothing to fear because I'm not actually here. But back to the dream. I don't remember all of the specifics about it, but I remember back in maybe 2014, I had a dream. That was back when I was like a hardcore Christian, like saved again, no drinking, no cursing, no, the kids can't listen to this type of music. We don't watch these things on TV type of stuff. And I had a dream then, and I was talking to a little birdie, and it had told me that Jesus wasn't real. That not Jesus wasn't real, but that it was a farce. And it was the beginning of my undoing in Christianity, the falling away of the whatever, right? And for those of you that have never questioned your beliefs, this video won't apply to you. You won't understand it. But for those of you that have, or if you're trying to understand somebody that has, this video could be helpful for you. And so anyways, in the dream that I had last night, I was having a debate with somebody, and they were like, well, but you believe the Bible is real, right? And I said no in the dream. And, then I started to break it down, because the person was like, oh, you can't, the Bible is the one true word or whatever. And I was like, look, I'm not discounting the stuff that happened in the Bible is real, right? There's a lot of overlap between what this person said and what that person said. I'm not discounting that there is a reality in place where all of that exists. But in the dream, I was discounting the validity of that document, that specific put together document. It's put together, in my opinion, to control. All of those things are in there to control. I mean, it's just like any other religion. Again, I always talk about Christianity because that's the one that I grew up with. I can't speak for the Quran specifically or any of the other religious literature that's out there. But there's an osprey friend on the tree. I can speak towards the Bible because that's what I have studied and am familiar with. And so I'm not trying to discount anybody's Christianity, their beliefs. I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't believe what they believe. Everybody has their own experiences. But what I will say is that if God is real, and God is infinite, and God is omnipotent and omnipresent, and all of those things, why can't all of the different versions of all of our realities exist too? Why can't they all exist? Why can't the Quran be have true accountings in it? And for those people, that is real. For Christianity, for Catholics, they have a different version of the Bible than Protestants. Why can't that be real? You know, and I'm not trying to say that nothing that's within those documents exists. I already said that. But I just don't necessarily agree with the way that the Bible is put together. The same thing with all religious texts, right? There's some elements of truth. That's what makes the best kind of lie, right? The best kind of farce is one that is weaved together with truth. And in my reality, there was a time in my life where the Bible was the one living document that was truth. And that's not the case anymore. And I think, for me, and I think that it's okay for you to question and outgrow things that you once thought were true, right? I think that there's not one single document that can explain the entirety of the Creator, because our understanding of things is so limited. I mean, even when you think of like math, there's things that we don't understand about math. There's things that we haven't discovered yet, the problems that we haven't been able to solve when it comes to math. And if we can't even understand the things that are going on in our universe, then how do we understand the concept of a multiverse or whatever else is out there, you know? And it is entirely possible that us living on Earth, we are another representation of what we know as a cell, right? Protons and neutrons and mitochondria and a nucleus and all of those things, that could be this. And we could be inside of another living being. Just like ants don't view the world the way that we do. Bacteria don't view the world the way that we do. Animals don't view the world the way that we do. And so all of those things are true at the same time, and those are all encompassed. When you try to piecemeal something out, it's when you really lose the whole perspective of the immensity of what creation is. You know, and I was thinking, like, all of those aspects, like, well, let's take creation in general, right? The first 7 days. Who's to say that we're still not on the day that God created the earth, the people? Who's to say that we're not still in that? If again, God is infinite and whatever, then infinity can't be contained within a 24-hour period. I mean, we're the ones who invented time, for crying out loud. We invented it to help us make sense of the passage of our lives, right? We can understand that, you know, the infants are infants between the ages 0 to blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that. And so we created that. And so if we created that, we created this little box that we put ourselves in that we consider the living document of God. And so we're like Russian nesting dolls in a way. You know, we understand things to our level, to the limits of our container. And as we let go of the container that we're in, our container grows. There's another layer of that. There's another layer of that. You can think of it as onions. You can think of it as, somebody had used baklava as an analogy for layers. Lasagna has layers, right? There's different layers. But anyways, I got bogged down in this whole, like, it's them or us, you know, and I've been dealing with a lot of my own trauma. The different layers of the trauma and triggers have been coming up for me. And so I've been absent for you guys because I've been not wanting to deal with the stuff that's been going on in my own internal world. You know, obviously you follow me somewhere, and if you've seen my Facebook and my Instagram, you'll see the types of things that I've been posting, and you can tell that I'm coming out of it because now it's starting to become more nature and awe related again, instead of you know, this is who I was, or this is who they were. And, you know, so anyways, my evolution is important. I think that documenting that is important. I think documenting your own evolution is important, even if it's just for you. And yes, I am documenting my evolution in a public place. You know, it's much like Anne Frank's diary, right? Like, every day may seem like it's just this one little tiny 24-hour snippet, and I'm capturing those little parts that are meaningful to me, and then one day somebody's gonna come and look and be like, well, that's this little piece of that whole thing is important to me, and they're gonna take it. And I find that very valuable to myself, because I go back and watch my own videos to see if I still believe the things that I believed, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, and then to see my evolutionary process. And yeah, so I don't make these videos to upset anyone. I make these videos to show how I'm learning and growing and expanding and outgrowing my container, in hopes that it will encourage you to do the same, because I think that it's important for us to continue to do that. A little while back I had said, you know, I was going to try to show up in a more real way and maybe do some lives and things. And something else that I've just recently discovered about myself within the last 2 days is that even though my profile's public and I have, you know, people that comment and do all these things, I still have a fear of being seen. I realized that, you know, when I do these videos, when I read my cards or all of those things, I do it in a very private container. I'm recording it, but it's still a very private container to me. And I noticed that a lot of my really creative endeavors come about when I am totally alone. My kids aren't here. My husband isn't here. And I realized it's because I have a fear of being seen. And let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's important, if you're still watching the video, I think it's important for you too to hear this, because you might have a fear of being seen that you're not even aware of. I was tidying up some of my locks, and I decided to play music. My husband wasn't home. He was at some event, and I put the music on and I was dancing around and stuff, and I was like, I wouldn't do that if he was here, because then he would be paying attention to me. And I know he's paying attention to me because he always says something, right? There's a lot of flies today. It's driving me nuts. And then I was like, but why am I like that? Oh, because I don't want him to think it's a sexual thing, you know. And, you know, he's just living his husband life, you know, he's doing his own thing. He's just being a human being. But it's me that has the issue. It's me that has that, like, I have to keep this close to myself. You know, and I remembered a time where I was dancing as a child and somebody told me, oh, well, you're not doing that right, or, oh, you're not moving your hips right, or you don't understand, you know, this or that, you know, and people made it into a sexual thing. It wasn't a sexual thing. I was a little kid, you know, and so that has given me a fear of dancing in public, which could just include my husband. But I don't have those inhibitions when no one's around, right? I just move my body in a way that feels releasing and good for me. And I don't mean that in a sexual manner at all. I mean that more in a tightness and releasing emotions and just feeling good way. And so that's something else that I'm dealing with, is the fear of being seen, of being accepted for who I am unconditionally. I mean, even these videos, you know, I share a lot of stuff with you guys, but I have feared negative feedback from that. People have something to say all the time. They have their perspective that they want to add to it. And I'm like, not on my page. Go to your page and post a little snippet of my video and say why you don't agree with that. If you want to have an actual discussion with me, that's different. Let's talk about it, right? But I'm not going to do that with you through comments on social media. That's not how you have a conversation. And but that's been a problem for me, because I have people that will say stuff and I'm like, you didn't even pay attention to what I was actually the message I was trying to get across, which means that you're not the person that I'm talking to, right? And so but I do invite anyone that has questions and wants to have an actual conversation with me about some of the stuff that I talk about, whether they agree or disagree. I'm open to that, as long as it's not going to turn into an argument and you're stupid for feeling this way, because you're not stupid for feeling the way that you feel, and neither am I. But maybe we can come to a place where we can expand that container together, right? So anyways, yeah, that's just a couple of things that have been on my mind the last couple of weeks. And of course, I'm still kind of just on the very edge of that, the loss of the friend thing from June. I'm still dealing with that. And healing takes as long as it fucking takes. And I'm not going to rush that because people are tired of hearing about it. Go somewhere else if you don't want to hear about it. That just means how impactful that relationship was to me, and how much I actually cared for that person, how much I actually care for my growth, how much I actually care for my honesty and authenticity. And so I'm not going to apologize for that. Again, if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. I'm not here to please everyone else, right? I'm here to document my story, because this is my equivalent of writing in a journal, a diary. And sometimes I do write. You guys have seen that. But I want to get back to where I was creative. I was looking back, you get these photo memories from your photo app that you use. And I think it was 3 years ago, I was creating vessels. I was making feather art. I was painting. I was doing all of these things that I'm not doing now. And I miss that part of me, because that's when I really felt really good. I've created some healing meditations in the past, and I miss all of that stuff, and I want to get back to that. And so it's not that I don't have the time in the day. It's that I have been telling myself, you're not good enough. You don't want to be seen, without saying those words. And yeah, I want to be done with that part. So anyways, the universe is bringing some new things to my life, and I want to let those things out and let them shine, and I want to share them with you. I need to be able to get to a place where all of that is in a shareable format, so you can see. If you want to see horse stuff, you can see horse stuff. If you want to see meditative stuff, you can see meditative stuff. And so if anybody has any suggestions about the best place to do that in one place, then let me know. The best place I found so far is YouTube, because I can create different albums or playlists, if you will. And so I've been doing that. But minus having my own website where I just put the stuff in, which people are not going to go to a website because they are used to social media and shit now. So the website idea is kind of dying. I still use websites, but I don't know how many other people do. I know my website that I have doesn't get a lot of traffic. So anyways, if anybody has any suggestions about where the best place is to have different categories and different formats too, because sometimes I write things, sometimes I video things, whatever. Sometimes I do audio recordings, then let me know. Maybe a podcast is a good way to go. I'm not really sure, but if you do know, then let me know. I love you, my dearest confidant. Until next time.